So a 12-year-old boy in Idaho got $1,000 from his grandmother. He bet his parents he could turn it into $1 million by age 18, or he'd go to college. He never went to college. A Norwegian student spent $27 on a thesis side experiment in 2009, then forgot about it. 4 years later, he checked the wallet and used part of it to buy an apartment in central Oslo. A computer scientist in California, dying of ALS, became the second person on Earth to ever run Bitcoin. The first transaction Satoshi Nakamoto ever sent was sent to him. And in 2025 alone, more than $52 billion in old Bitcoin, coins nobody had touched for 5, 10, even 14 years, suddenly woke up and started moving. Welcome to C Daily Buzz. Today, 4 of the luckiest crypto wins ever recorded. May 2011, Idaho. A 12-year-old kid named Erik Finman is told by a teacher to drop out and work at McDonald's. His grandmother gives him $1,000 for college savings. Erik does not put it into college savings. Instead, he makes a deal with his parents. If he can turn $1,000 into $1 million by his 18th birthday, they don't make him go to college. Ever. He buys Bitcoin at around $12 a coin, roughly 100 BTC. For the next 6 years, he keeps buying, keeps holding, keeps building. He drops out of high school. He launches a startup called Bowtangle, an alternative learning platform. Sells it later for 300 BTC instead of cash. He stacks more. December 12, 2017. Erik turns 18. Bitcoin is at roughly $20,000. He's worth approximately 2.07 million US dollars. He won the bet. His parents kept their word. He never went to college. A 2021 Business Insider report estimated him at 423 BTC. By May 2026, with Bitcoin around $77,000 per coin, that stack, if he still held it, would be worth approximately $32.5 million. But here's where it gets interesting. Erik used the early Bitcoin profits to bootstrap businesses. He launched Finman, a venture capital fund investing in blockchain, AI, and even space exploration startups. He's now backing satellite work for NASA-adjacent companies. In a 2025 podcast, he said something most people would not expect from one of the most famous Bitcoin millionaires alive. Quote, "He's tired of being known as the Bitcoin guy and is desperate to get out of crypto. He's pivoting hard into aviation. The kid who was told to drop out and flip burgers grew up to fund space companies. With Bitcoin he bought because his grandmother gave him $1,000 instead of a video game console. His teacher, allegedly, never reached out." Norway, 2009. A graduate student named Kristoffer Koch is writing his master's thesis on encryption. He stumbles into a paper about a new digital currency called Bitcoin. As a side experiment, purely for the thesis, he buys some. The amount? 150 Norwegian kroner, about 27 US dollars at the time. The number of Bitcoin he received for that $27, 5,000 BTC. Then he finishes his thesis, graduates, gets a job, and completely forgets the entire purchase ever happened. April 2013. Bitcoin is suddenly all over the news. Kristoffer remembers his old experiment. He digs through his computer. He finds the encrypted wallet file. But there's a problem. He has lost the password. He spends the next 24 hours trying every possible variation he can think of. Eventually, somehow, he gets it. The wallet opens. Inside, 5,000 BTC. At the time, worth approximately 886,000 US dollars. Kristoffer Koch was 29 years old with a 5,000 BTC wallet in an apartment shortage city. So he made the move that, retrospectively, every Bitcoin maximalist on the internet has called the worst trade of his life, and every Norwegian housing market expert has called the smartest. He sold 1,000 BTC, then later sold another 2,000 BTC. Used the proceeds to buy an upmarket apartment in Tøyen, a desirable neighborhood in Oslo. He kept the remaining 2,000 BTC. Here's the math, courtesy of 2026 Bitcoin prices. If he had held all 5,000 BTC instead of buying that apartment, at $77,000 per coin, 385 million US dollars. But he didn't hold all of it. He bought a roof. And the 2,000 BTC he kept, those are worth approximately $154 million today. From a $27 thesis experiment. When asked about his loss by selling early, Koch told Norwegian media, basically, he doesn't regret it. He owns his apartment, he has stability, he still made a fortune. The lesson here is not, you should have held forever. The lesson is, Kristoffer Koch is the only person in this story who turned a thesis-side experiment into both a real apartment and a long-term fortune, and he slept fine through every single Bitcoin crash since. This story isn't about the most money, it's about being early, almost impossibly early. January 11, 2009, a computer scientist and cryptography veteran named Hal Finney sends a tweet. 2 words, running Bitcoin. That tweet today is one of the most famous tweets in the history of the internet. The next day, January 12, 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, sends Hal Finney 10 BTC, just to test that the network actually works. That transaction, that single 10 Bitcoin transfer, is the very first peer-to-peer Bitcoin transaction in human history. Hal Finney was, by his own account, the second person on Earth to ever run the Bitcoin software. The first was Satoshi. For the first weeks of the network, it was effectively just Satoshi and Hal. 2 computers, 2 people, mining blocks, exchanging emails about bug fixes. Hal mined block number 70-something, extremely early in the chain. He had been working in this space for years. He had even built his own predecessor system called RPOW, Reusable Proof of Work, before Bitcoin existed. When Satoshi released Bitcoin, Hal said he was fascinated. He downloaded it immediately. Now here's where the story gets heavier. Hal Finney was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2009, the same year he ran his first Bitcoin software. The disease progressed brutally. His body shut down. In March 2013, he wrote his Bitcoin story, using eye tracking software because by then he could not move his hands. He died on August 28, 2014. Per his own request, his body was cryonically preserved at Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Arizona. Hal Finney never publicly said how much Bitcoin he kept. In a Bitcoin Talk forum post, he mentioned spending or donating several dozen BTC back when they had no value. The rest, unknown. Speculation puts it anywhere from a few thousand to tens of thousands of BTC. His family has access to that wallet. The lucky angle isn't only about the money, it's about timing. Hal Finney was the second human being on the planet to receive a Bitcoin transaction. He received the first one ever sent. If you wanted a single position in the entire history of cryptocurrency that captures pure, mathematical, you cannot buy this luck, Hal Finney's coordinates in time are it. He didn't get rich because Bitcoin went up. He got historically lucky because he was the only person Satoshi could send a test transaction to, and he answered the email. The richest spot in the early Bitcoin universe wasn't reserved for whoever bought the most. It was reserved for whoever picked up the phone. This last one is happening right now, in real time. July 4th, 2025, American Independence Day weekend. On-chain monitoring services Look On-Chain and Whale Alert flag something almost unprecedented. 8 separate Bitcoin wallets, each holding 10,000 BTC, all dormant for 14 years, suddenly activate within hours of each other. 80,000 BTC in total moved in 8 transactions, worth approximately $8.6 billion at the time. Those coins were originally bought or mined in 2011, when Bitcoin was, by some estimates, at 78 cents. Cost basis of that stack in 2011, roughly $33,400. Total, for all of it, a profit of, allegedly, 10.8 million%. A senior crypto industry executive told reporters the wallets likely belonged to a 2011 miner who had once held 200,000 BTC, one of the original Bitcoin whales, going back to drink for the first time in over a decade. That was just one event. Across all of 2025, on-chain analysts at Glassnode and Checkmate documented something even bigger. More than $52 billion in dormant Bitcoin, coins untouched for at least 5 years, were activated and moved during 2025. The 10-plus-year-old category alone moved $13.3 billion, the biggest single year in history for ancient supply waking up. In October 2025, a Satoshi-era wallet that had mined 4,000 BTC between April and June of 2009 reactivated for the first time since June 2011. In 2011, those coins were worth $67,000. In 2025, over $440 million. In March 2026, another 2012-era wallet holding 2,100 BTC came back online, almost $150 million worth. These are not crashes, these are not hacks, these are people, almost always anonymous, sometimes deceased, sometimes alive, who quietly held through every cycle. through Mt. Gox, through 2018, through the FTX collapse, through 2022, through everything. And now they're moving. Each awakening is its own private moment of victory. Somebody's old laptop in a drawer, somebody's printout in a safe, somebody's family member finding a paper wallet after a will is read. The luckiest Bitcoin wins of 2025 and 2026 are not in the news. They're on-chain. They're untraceable. They belong to people who 15 years ago made one click and never had to make another decision again. That's a wrap. A grandmother's $1,000 gift turned into a $30 million VC fund. A $27 thesis bet turned into an Oslo apartment and a $150 million holding. A dying cryptographer became the second person ever to receive a Bitcoin transaction. And tens of billions of dollars in dormant Bitcoin are quietly waking up right now, in 2026, all over the blockchain. The pattern is simple. Most of the luckiest crypto winners didn't trade. They bought. Or they were given. Or they answered an email. And then they did absolutely nothing for a very long time. In a market obsessed with charts and signals, sometimes the best position is forgetting you have a position at all. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We drop new episodes every week. We'll see you next time on C Daily Buzz.